and check in with Aaron Katersky. Aaron, good morning. Thanks for checking in.
Good morning, McGraw. It is a city that is trying to get back on its feet with people returning to work and school and all the tourist and cultural attractions reopening today. But the scars and the pain are still very fresh. There are memorials to the victims at each of the 6 attack locations. I've been visiting them all throughout the weekend, and there's still, I think, a good sense of panic and fear. We saw people gathering, and then somebody lit off fireworks, and that led a crowd to disperse, and all of the mementos got trampled. That was last night. Police are out on the streets, heavily armed, guarding the different sites and watching over people. And then the investigative steps are unfolding on a number of fronts. There have been raids all across France, and this morning there's a siege in Belgium, in a neighborhood outside Brussels that has been a hotbed of jihadism, and that's where it's believed the one of 3 brothers somehow involved in the attacks may be holed up.
Aaron, can you shed some light on the report that of the 8, they're looking for the one, and they actually held him and detained him before releasing him?
We're still trying to sort out some of that, but because it's been complicated to know who's been directly involved. There were 7 attackers that died at the different scenes, 6 of them at their own hand by their suicide vests. 1 was shot dead in the street. And then they put out last night a manhunt notice for Salah Abdeslam, who was said to be involved, but then somehow escaped, believed to have crossed back into Belgium, where many of these attackers originated. But how this, how he's specifically involved, and whether he had been detained at one point and let go, very tough to know at the moment.
We're also hearing that a number of them were actually French citizens.
Many are, and many have ties to Belgium, and this seems to be part of what we're learning is a new ISIS strategy. There's been commandos that report to the very top of the ladder in Islamic State in Syria that seem to have originated this idea to attack here in Paris, but the cell that carried it out is local, plotted in Belgium with the help of some French nationals, and authorities are trying to figure out who all these people were and how they were financed.
France didn't waste any time attacking ISIS. What's going on in Syria right now?
French warplanes bombarded ISIS targets in their de facto capital, Raqqa, hitting munitions depots and other strategic assets. The U.S. has joined in now, too. We're just hearing from the Pentagon that there's been a new targeting phase in Syria, the destruction of more than 100 fuel trucks used by ISIS to transport illicit oil it uses to generate income. France, especially, promised retaliation, and this seems to be the start of it.
Aaron Katersky, live in Paris. You're there. Give us a sense of what people are thinking, feeling, and the energy in the streets.
I think there's still a palpable fear here. And the Prime Minister was pretty frank on French television this morning, saying that there are going to be more attacks. And the attacks that happened on Friday night happened in the same neighborhood where the offices of Charlie Hebdo were attacked. And so it's this one neighborhood that has just been gripped by all of this. And the restaurants that were struck where the gunman hit and the bullet holes are still visible in the windows. I mean, unless you knew the neighborhood, you wouldn't even know they were there. Some of them are so secluded. And so you hit young, middle-class, rather urbane Parisians. And I think many of them were students of one form or other, and so the president of France opted to go to the Sorbonne today to observe a Europe-wide moment of silence, he said in a location he chose because all the students that were killed.
Aaron Katersky, live in Paris. Aaron, thanks for checking in. Be safe.
Thanks, McGraw.
624, Big 550, KTRS. Walter.